MagMongoSlade.
Smackdown, October 25, 2024. We don't have much in the way of news and notes, but this was a pretty important Smackdown. They sold Crown Jewel very well. They did some surprises, which was good. So I actually am very interested in talking about it. You know, we got ourselves before we get into that, just a little aside in terms of news and notes, we got ourselves a bit of a pro wrestling Survivor Series in terms of Trump and Kamala Harris. It's getting cringe. It's pretty damn cringe. Now we got Top Dollar arguing like we care what Top Dollar thinks about politics. Like, really, I need to know what Top Dollar thinks about tax policy. I don't care what Top Dollar thinks about anything. But you got Top Dollar on one side, you got Val Venus on the other. You got Jim Cornette on one side, along with Batista and Kevin Nash. And who else? It was Batista, it was Kevin Nash, it was Mick Foley. And then on the side, you got Undertaker, you got Kane, and you got, I think, the Ryback. Oh, yeah, we need to know what Ryback thinks about things, who eats in his car. You know, these people are, this is a joke. This is a joke. Dude stuffs his face with cheeseburgers in the front seat of his car, and we supposed to care what he thinks about politics. Get out of here, Ryback. Nobody gives a damn. I'm entertained, though, because they're putting out videos that are kind of funny. So, I mean, it is what it is. I guess choose wisely or don't choose at all. I'm not saying people should vote. I'm not saying you shouldn't vote. I'm saying listening to Jim Cornette, probably not a good idea. You got to remember, sometimes these people are in a different tax bracket. You know, they're multi-million, and plus they have other agendas, you know, so I just wanted to get that out there, just to prevent from doing a whole video on it. So let's talk about SmackDown. So Randy Orton wants to fight Kevin Owens. That's what he wants. Triple H does not want him to fight Kevin Owens, but he has to pull teeth to get Triple H to explain why he doesn't want him to fight Kevin Owens. And it all boils down to Kevin Owens is different now. Oh, he's different. When he first got here, he just wanted to be a prize fighter. It was just business. But then he opened up his soul to you guys. He trusted Randy Orton and Cody. And the whole time I was thinking, Sami Zayn, he's killed Sami Zayn like 8 times. They're best friends. Everybody knows this. He's murdered Sami Zayn 100 times. He just met Cody, like, I don't know, a couple years ago. He's known Sami Zayn. I think they were in diapers together or something like that. And he's murdered that guy a bunch of times. So I'm not really completely sold on this story, besides the fact that Kevin Owens is, you know, a sack of potatoes in a t-shirt. I'm just not going to feel like he's threatening Randy. Now, yeah, Triple H did mention that Randy Orton has, like, you know, a cyborg back now or whatever, because he just came back and whatever. Like, okay, whatever. So I'm not 100% buying into the idea that Triple H is trying to save Randy Orton from Kevin Owens. It's like, are you serious? Have you seen these two people? I would pretty sure that Randy Orton, if he had limited use of his legs, would be able to kick the shit out of Kevin Owens. So Randy is saying, look, I didn't ask for Paul Levesque to come out here. I didn't ask for that. I asked for Triple H. And then he runs down Triple H's resume about sledgehammers and attacking people in their own houses. Notice he didn't mention, you know, drugging Stephanie McMahon and marrying her in Las Vegas. He didn't mention that. Probably not the time to mention that people were drugged on wrestling shows and married against their will. In any event, he's saying that's what he wants. Because he knows, Triple H knows what needs to be done, how they handle business. So then Triple H agreed, finally said that he was going to let this match happen, and says that he suggests that Randy Orton protect himself at all times, which was good foreshadowing, but nothing came of it. Like, I thought that Randy's going to get attacked later in the show. It didn't happen, though. Whatever. The opening segment was okay. Again, it was hard for me to take it seriously because, you know, Randy Orton getting beat up by Kevin Owens, unless he's jumping him from behind. Randy shouldn't have to beg to fight a guy. That's weird. You know, Kevin Owens ain't Undertaker. He's not, Goldberg in his prime or Stone Cold Steve Austin or something, or like a deranged Mick Foley or Kane when he just got unmasked. Like, these are mythical characters. These are very dangerous human beings. Kevin Owens ain't quite on that level yet. He ain't showing me nothing. In context, he hasn't shown me a damn thing. So why should we be concerned about Randy's well-being? Randy's huge. We all thinking collectively Randy will be alright. Like, Randy's gonna be fine. So you might as well go ahead and make the match. So then we got through this chore of a 7th match between Andrade and Carmelo Hayes. Look, as much as I like both of these guys, I didn't need to watch them wrestle 7 times. And then you had LA Knight, who somebody needs to sit LA Knight down. I know he's a little old. He's probably about my age. He's a little older than me. He needs to be sat down. And somebody needs to tell him, LA Knight, I understand what you want to be, but you are a babyface. Okay? You should be a babyface. A lot of the stuff you're doing is muting your crowd reaction because they don't like it. He's out there in his shades, in the belt, trying to be the referee with his goddamn vest on. I mean, it's all just disqualification bait anyway. There's nothing to this match. But he's pretty much, they do the little things where, he gets kicked by Carmelo Hayes or he gets into an argument with Andrade. And it's like people aren't really into this anyway because we've seen this a bunch of times. So you're already kind of pushing it. And then you got, LA Knight being a tweener instead of being the babyface, even though Andrade's a babyface too. So you got Carmelo Hayes. He had at least 2 visual pins on Andrade. He gets yanked out of the ring by LA Knight, who then attacks Carmelo Hayes. Then he gets in the ring and Andrade's like, bro, you in the way. Get out of here. And then LA Knight attacks Andrade and drops him too. And everybody is kind of like crickets. Like, okay, I guess. Like, good way of making everybody look like a scrub, Of course, Nick Aldis got really mad and told LA Knight he's going to have to wrestle on a triple threat match. Who cares? Like, this is rough. This one's a rough one. LA Knight, it seems like he wants to be a heel or he like wants to be Stone Cold Steve Austin, but it doesn't work. The only reason Stone Cold Steve Austin and all these things work is because of the context in what they operated in. Steve Austin could attack babyfaces and heels because there were babyfaces and heels, and these people were over, and people were invested in Stone Cold Steve Austin, and they understood why he was doing these things. LA Knight just come across like he's very cocky, and it's coming across as a little weird. He's got to find a lane and stick to it. That's my opinion. I know you guys like tweeners. You like that gray area shit. I don't like that shit. That shit don't work for me, brother. So, we get Tiffany Stratton. She's backstage and she's trying to prove herself to Nia Jax. She volunteers to handle Naomi. Nia Jax already got somebody to handle Naomi, however, and it's Candice LeRae. And I'm like, Candice LeRae? Then they explain that, she pinned Bayley, but Tiffany Stratton couldn't pin Bayley. I'm like, okay. I guess that's the benchmark of the women's division. Who was the last person to pin Bayley? And what was the context of her pinning Bayley, by the way? In any event, this is supposed to create some kind of jealousy between Tiffany and Candice LeRae. Why does Tiffany want to be friends with Nia Jax? I don't get it. Why is she loyal to Nia Jax? There needs to be a reason. I don't know. Why is Candice LeRae loyal to Nia Jax? Why is she doing Nia Jax's bidding? Why? We should explain these things. In any event, Candice LeRae loses to Naomi, so none of it matters anyway. Candice LeRae's 1 week of fame has already fizzled. You thought she was going to get some momentum. Nope. Had you fooled. So there's that. Bayley and Naomi are still friends, at least for now. They were teasing dissension between these two, but I guess that's over. Because Triple H has to find some way of getting Candice LeRae involved. how about we just have an explanation for why these people want to be close to Nia Jax? No real reason for it. Now, let's talk about the good segment between Cody and Gunther. So, they were talking about their reason why, which I don't really care about, and it actually comes across as being something that you learn in a therapy session. I don't want to hear two grown men go into a therapy session about the reason why they want to win this championship. It's like, because motherfucker, it's my job. I don't want to lose. What's your reason why? I don't want to lose. I don't want to embarrass myself in front of my family. You know? I don't want all these Arabs to see me getting pinned in front of the world. I don't want that. You know, losing sucks. That's a good reason. So Gunther kind of gives you that as a reason, saying that he wants to live up to himself. I guess live up to the expectations that he has for himself. And then he says that Cody Rhodes didn't need to mention his daughter. He's being completely dramatic, which he said on Raw, and it still remains true today. He says, so what's your real reason? And Cody says, well, that's a dumb question, because none of this exists without all of the people. Then they did the woe because Gunther interrupted the woe. I'm like, oh, heavens to Betsy, I can't believe it. We could not prevent the people from having their woe. They gotta have their woes. In any event, look. So Cody says that he's proud of being dramatic, and says that he's proud of being a little bit of a messy king. Who delete TikTok from his phone, Brandy. You know, stop letting him listen to like Meg Thee Stallion or whatever you got him listening to. Stop it. No grown man should be calling himself a messy king. This is not good. Stop it. So then he starts criticizing Gunther, saying that Gunther looks like a champion, sounds like one, is big like one. But he's missing on one major thing. He's missing the responsibility that comes with being a champion. That he's asleep in his bed all comfortable, laid up with his wife. Meanwhile, Cody is out doing media, and Gunther laughed at that, and I laughed too. I'm like, why are you doing more work than you got to? And then as soon as I said that, to myself, of course, Gunther was like, I told them no. I was like, right. You just tell them no. You know? He says, I got the guts to say no. Well, yeah, you know? Fuck these charities. Fuck this Make-A-Wish thing. I'm going to bed. I need some sleep. It's a great heel move. I got the guts to say no to charities. That's an all-timer right there. I like that. It's not going to catch. It's not a catchphrase. You know, it ain't, laying the Smackdown or anything like that. But a heel saying, look, I got the guts to say I'm not doing it. You know, like, I don't want to do these things, so I'm not going to do it. That works for me. That's peak selfishness. I love it. And it suits Gunther's character, because why did he care about charities? And charities like what? You want Gunther out there saving puppies or whatever? Nobody. There's no charities worth his time. He called himself the workhorse champion, and says that Cody does all these extra media and all these extra charities because he knows if he stops being a servant to the people, his story is over. Called him a servant. I was like, that's interesting. Interesting phrasing there. But Cody likes to be a servant. This is what he wants. He's a people pleaser. He's trying to be everything to everybody. That's why it doesn't work. Cody Rhodes got mad and says that they call you the ring general, but you're leading no one. You're not a leader. And he says, you want to talk about guts? My whole career has been based on guts. And I thought he was going to talk about AEW again, but I think he restrained himself a little bit. Then he started saying it takes guts to end this civil conversation and throw the first punch. And then he attacked Gunther, and Gunther and Kaiser beat him up, because of course they would. Then Randy Orton sauntered down there to help Cody, and Imperium left. They set up a match next week, Imperium versus Cody and Randy Orton. Bringing Kaiser to SmackDown just to eat a pin is hilarious. That's the only reason he's there, is to eat the pin. So I like Kaiser though. I think this is a strong segment. It was it really got over Gunther, and they set it up nicely in terms of Cody is a man of the people versus Gunther is all about himself. The all for one versus one for all gimmick, right? So there's that. Nick Aldis, Ava, and Adam Pearce announced a women's fatal 4-way tag team match between Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill versus Damage Control versus the Metaphor, Lash Legend, and Jakara Jackson versus Chelsea Green and Piper Niven. That will take place at Crown Jewel. So Crown Jewel is going to have 6 matches on the card. Somebody must have grabbed Triple H and put him in a hammerlock, like a shoot hammerlock, and told him 5 matches is not going to cut it. You got to make it at least 6. And he was like, okay. 6 matches it is. Do I get to pick the 6th match? Yeah, sure. Whatever. This was expected, so not that big a deal, really. Not groundbreaking by any stretch of the imagination. Now, the last 30 minutes or so of SmackDown. Probably not the last 30 minutes. Probably about the last maybe 15 to 20. We start out with Motor City Machine Guns defeating DIY in a tournament final to become the #1 contender for the Tag Team Championships. In this match, they actually had Johnny Gargano hit Tommaso Ciampa by accident, which led to them 2 guys arguing after the match after they lost. It was a hard-fought match. It was also hard for me to get into because I'm not a huge DIY guy. But the match was fine. There's probably going to be people who are blown away by it and chanting this is awesome. I was just kind of like, okay, it was good. It was, it wasn't a terrible match, but it wasn't anything that I would call, like, great. So then Solo Sikoa saunters out there immediately. As they go to commercial comeback, Nick Aldis already in the ring, keeping the peace. Solo did the introductions for the Bloodline, while Chris Sabin, who has a very effeminate voice, which fits his very small body. I'm trying to give him a pass, but he's a small man. Says that, and then Alex Shelley, or no, it was Sabin who said that they're ready anytime, anywhere. So Solo says right here, right now. Nick Aldis said, well, look, no. These guys worked for 20 years. They need a fair match. So Alex Shelley says, nope, we're willing to do it now. So Nick Aldis pulled a Gorilla Monsoon and asked everybody if they were into it, as if they were going to say no. And so the match started. The main event, because there was no announced main event for the show. So the main event was the Guerrillas of Destiny, as members of the Bloodline, Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa, versus the Motor City Machine Guns. Jimmy Uso popped up out of nowhere and fought Solo and Jacob. That caused a distraction. Then Roman's theme song played. Roman came down there and he fought Jacob Fatu and Solo as well. The GOD kept struggling in the ring because Tonga Loa is one of the worst ever. One of the worst of all time, easily. And then a masked man, who we all knew was Jey Uso, assaulted the Tongans, super kick, spear. That led to the Motor City Machine Guns hitting their finisher, Skull and Bones. And the Motor City Machine Guns, in only their 3rd match in WWE, are the WWE Tag Team Champions. That's a lot right there. Look, because it doesn't happen that often, this actually is not a terrible thing. It's a surprise, a nice little surprise for the audience. It puts over Motor City Machine Guns strong, which is what they want. It now has separated the tag team division from the Bloodline story. So now the Bloodline are no longer hindered by championships. So, and then of course, Jey Uso got some measure of revenge by costing the Bloodline their titles, like they cost him his title. So, which everybody knew once this match was made, I knew Jey was going to help these guys win. Even if it wasn't tonight, whenever the match was going to happen, Jey was going to help them win. So them basically saying we're going to do it all at one time is perfectly fine. So, Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa, they're not the tag team at all that they were in Japan. They are extremely washed. I mean, they're on the spin dry part of the cycle at this point. The cycle about to end, man. Like, they're squeezing the last little juice out of these guys, from what I can see. They don't seem to have it anymore. You know, it's donezo for these dudes. But it's another championship where there was no run. It was just that the guys held the belts for all this time. I think somebody said it was 90 days or something. What happened in those 90 days to make them great tag team champions? Nothing. They just had the belts. They weren't defending them. They weren't in a tag team feud. They just had the belts. Just like, you know, Jey Uso just had the Intercontinental Championship. He was just holding it. They literally just have people holding belts. They don't have runs anymore. So, GOD, terrible. Who cares? It's over. Motor City Machine Guns winning is great. Here's where I have just a smidgen of a problem. So after Motor City Machine Guns, they get Pyro. Their theme song is terrible, by the way, and their merch is also very bad. At least they're the tag team champions. Let's say that, okay? So why they get more Pyro and they leave the stage. Jey Uso is in the ring. Jimmy Uso comes into the ring. And then the Usos hug, which ended up being a huge spot. The crowd is clapping and cheering. Everybody's extremely happy that Jimmy and Jay have made up. And Roman is in the distance. He's standing in the aisleway watching them hug. And he's forlorn. He's wishing it was him in there getting a hug. Why can't he hug me like that? Here's my problem with this. And it's a minor problem. I feel like it steps on the Motor City Machine Guns. I feel like the show should have ended with those guys with the tag team titles. And you can have Jimmy and Jay in the ring, but you don't have to give away the hug. Maybe you give them a nod of acknowledgement first. Like, you know, Jimmy, and, you know, he gets in there and maybe he's looking for that embrace. But Jay just kind of gives him a nod of approval. And then he leaves, and then you build it up so that moment could happen again. But I felt that was a little bit rushed. Other than that, though, this was fantastic. You know, this was what everybody was looking forward to. Everybody wanted the Usos to be brought back together. Now, the idea of the Usos versus the Guerrillas of Destiny, which used to be a dream match to some people. I know I was very much into it when I heard that it was possible. Knowing that GOD is on the spin cycle, you know, I have no interest. Like, I have no interest in watching Tongaloa. None. Just no interest whatsoever. So, I guess it's gotta happen, but it's not going to be the marquee match that it probably could have been 10 years ago, you know. But then again, 10 years ago, the Usos weren't the guys that they are now. So it happens when it happens. So, you know, like, I don't think anybody would have gave a shit 10 years ago, because the Guerrillas of Destiny would have been in their physical prime. They would have been able to kill the Usos, and the Usos would have been barely over. So I guess it works out in the Usos' favor that they can still go, even though Guerrillas of Destiny is broke down, and like all the other guys who come from Japan. I don't know what it is about coming from Japan and all of a sudden your body just can't, you just lock up, and all of a sudden you're slower than you were before. You know, you're relying a lot on gimmicks. You're like, or calling people bitches, or gyrating, or just something, you know? And it's all the Japanese guys. It's not the girls. Like, the women are not coming to America beat up, busted up. And I know that sometimes they're 17-year-old veterans and they're like 30 years old. I get it. But these guys, I mean, my goodness. It's like some of them are coming out of a prison program where all that happened was they got beat with kendo sticks for 10 years. These dudes are terrible. Whatever they're doing to people in Japan, stop it. Stop. You're killing these people. Like, everybody is walking gingerly. They can barely get through a match. How many guys have come from Japan and can barely go? I think Will Ospreay is one of the few that spent a significant amount of time in Japan, they can come back to America and it's okay. Most of these other guys are beat to shit. And it's terrible. And God is like a big victim of this. So it's not going to be the dream match or the intense match that it probably needed to be. Now, you might be able to cover it up with some gimmicks. Like if you make it a street fight or something like that, it might be fun. But a straight up tag team match between the Usos and Guerrillas of Destiny, it's not going to be anywhere near what it could have been a couple of years ago. So you might have to pull a Terry Funk and make it like a last team standing or, street fight or something like that to make it interesting. Now, we got 1/3 of the situation together in terms of the bloodline. The Usos are back together. All right. Now you got to get Jay and Roman back together. And then you got Paul. Paul is still missing. So even though this part was rushed with the Usos getting back together so soon, even though, Jay was very emotional and not wanting to be on the positive side with Roman again. And I think that's the part they want to drag out because there's so much history of abuse between Roman and Jay. That while there wasn't that much between Jimmy and Jay. Jimmy and Jay really didn't feud until August of last year when they really had a problem. When Jimmy made it his business to try to stop Jay from winning a championship and stopping Jay's forward progress. That was late last year, early this year, and they got over it. Okay. But 4 years of Roman Reigns playing mind games and threatening to hit him with stairs and, all this kind of weird stuff, pushing him around, shoving him, beating him up. That's when it's going to be a little bit harder to deal with. And it's, as of right now, none of these people are set to wrestle in Saudi Arabia. But I'm thinking there may be a 7th match on that show, as they may do the Guerrillas of Destiny versus the Usos at Crown Jewel. And I think if you're going to do it, you might as well do it there, considering, well, I guess you could do it on SmackDown. Again, like I said, it's not the match that it used to be. So I'm okay with it, even though I think it's rushed, but it's fine. We're still waiting on Paul's return, and then we're also still a good ways away from Survivor Series. So if they're going to have a War Games match, which I'm not a big fan of the War Games. I would prefer if it was a regular 4-on-4, 5-on-5 match in between the two bloodlines. I think that would be a lot more dramatic, personally, especially if you can get it down to Solo and Roman, or Roman and Jacob or whatever. I mean, you can always get Jacob disqualified. I mean, that's a good way of getting him out of it, right? But of a way of showing dominance. And without, one person getting pinned and everybody being in some schmoz match. And I don't want to get into how much I hate the War Games, but it's more my speed, my personal speed, if it was a regular Survivor Series match. And we still have a long way to go between now and Survivor Series, which I think is it late November? Yeah, I think it's late November. So it's approximately a month away. So about 4 more weeks. So you got a lot of time between now and Survivor Series to get Roman and Jay on at least to form an alliance. And I'm okay with they just form an alliance and they don't really formally get back together. Now, the 4th man is always going to be the problem because everybody wants Sami Zayn. And I think that's kind of where they're going to have to go because Sami isn't doing anything right now. So Sami Zayn being the 4th guy, I guess that's going to have to be him. And that's the original bloodline anyway, and that's what everybody wants. And then, of course, we're going to have Paul. So we got about 4 weeks to get Paul back in there, if you want to bring Paul back. I mean, you might not want to bring him back yet. And to reintegrate Sami Zayn. to reform the Bloodline. And then I would imagine at Survivor Series, The Rock is going to return. So I would imagine Roman's team's going to win, and then The Rock's going to return. So the end of SmackDown was very good. That's a huge thumbs up with the Usos return. I think it stepped on Motor City Machine Guns being the champions. Probably could have ended the show with that. But Motor City Machine Guns winning the title was a nice surprise, welcome surprise. Separates the tag team division from the Bloodline story, which is very much needed because GOD, again, is dead in the water. Good segment with Cody and Gunther, even though I think it went a little long and I don't really like the content outside of Gunther saying that he doesn't really care about charities, which is great. The women's stuff, the United States Championship stuff, the Randy Orton, Kevin Owens stuff, okay. It was alright, I guess. You know, Triple H and Randy Orton did a good job of selling for Kevin Owens and putting him over and everything. But as soon as you see Kevin Owens again, and he just looks the same as he always looks, and he just wrestles the same as he always wrestles, he's supposed to come in there and be like a Bam Bam Bigelow kind of guy. He's going to do like a swanton or something just to fuck with you. Because, you know, why not? He's going to put on basketball shorts again. That's what he's going to do. A cutoff shirt and basketball shorts. And you're going to be like, this guy's mentally ill. You know, this guy's out of his mind. Why is he dressed like this? He going to a pickup game in somebody's backyard. And he's supposed to be scary. And no, ain't nobody buying that. But otherwise, I think SmackDown actually did a good job this week. They had to stack a lot of stuff together, but they did a good job. So I give SmackDown a pass. Let me know what you guys think. And I'll talk to you guys later.
No one does it better.